Okay, I'd like to call to order the November 5th Park Board meeting. Leslie, can you call a roll?
Yes, Christie.
Here.
Hanley.
Here.
Lehrman.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Samersky.
Here.
And Chair Ingraham.
Here. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Or any comments, or do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve? Second.
All right, Christie.
Yes.
Hanley.
Yes.
Lehrman.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Samersky.
Yes.
And Chair Ingraham.
Yes. There are no minutes for approval today.
Correct. They'll be in the December packet. We didn't get them in time for this.
And I don't believe we have any citizens looking to discuss anything on the agenda, correct? Anybody on the phone?
I don't know. Is there anyone here interested?
You said no. So with that, we'll move to special matters, and there are no special matters this evening.
No special matters.
So we can go right to our business items, and 7A, the Big Willow Master Plan.
All right. I'll turn this over to Matt, but before I do, just a reminder, this is some high-level introduction. I know you've already heard a little bit about this at the Joint Park Board Council meeting. That was a very quick look into it. Matt's going to go into more detail. I'm certainly interested in looking for feedback, but just a reminder, there's no formal action required with this. It's just about listening and providing feedback as necessary. I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Park Board Chair, Park Board. Big Willow Park, it's one of our gems of our numerous gemmed park system in Minnetonka. So as Leslie mentioned, I did sort of give a preamble to the master planning process to the joint meeting. Tonight I was hoping to walk through a little bit closer look at the process of our master planning, where it comes from in terms of the post-planning that leads into the master planning, and some of the key sort of opportunities and constraints that we're seeing as we begin to look at the park and what sort of gets folded into the master planning process, and of course open for feedback. But I want to make it clear that tonight this is sort of, these are a lot of the ideas that we have so far working with the consultant. So some of these things may or may not end up in the draft master plan. So we're going to need to stay tuned for that master plan to be prepared and sent out to the public for really sort of a deep dive into what's being proposed. So this is sort of the second version of the preamble, if you will. Wrong computer. So a little bit of the background. So the Parks Open Space and Trails System Plan, this came out in 2021. This sort of lays out a roadmap for park planning and what we want to do in terms of improvements. So there's really a multi-stage process to this. It's about inventorying and assessing the conditions of the park. We like to look for user trends. What are people using this park for? And this leads to an ability for us to prioritize park improvements and the investments if necessary. We have a beautiful park system. We don't necessarily need to make change just for the sake of change. So part of this process is to generally understand what's valuable about this park, and if we want to leave it alone, then that's what we're going to do. So I added these guiding principles from the post plan on the side here: advance environmental sustainability and resiliency, provide connection to the park trails and the programs in terms of recreation programming that happens in the park system, promote community health and wellness, promote equity and inclusion, and support excellence and innovation. So again, this master planning process is really about inventorying analysis. So what's the current condition and how are these park features being used? We like to take this opportunity to look back at the plans that were previously adopted, so the post plan, as I mentioned. The Natural Resources Master Plan ends up being a big consideration as we go through this park planning process, knowing how important our natural resources are in the city. That Natural Resources Master Plan has led to habitat restoration and maintenance plans. One has been adopted or considered for Big Willow in the past. So we use those to sort of inform the park planning process and greater understand what investments we previously made in the park and how those will influence our choices moving forward. So survey and outreach has been going on for a little while now. Really the goal of that is to understand how residents use the park, what should not change in their perspective, and what needs improvements. We end up hearing a lot of the similar concerns over and over again. We want to make sure those are nice and documented early on in the process. We're really looking at a human-centered design consideration. This is about inclusive placemaking, making sure that we're accommodating the largest group of potential users as possible, especially when it comes to active recreation in the ball fields and getting in and out of those bathrooms, those sorts of considerations. So a little bit of stats related to Big Willow. So there's a very large athletic complex. And in the post plan, it's listed as an athletic complex and a preserve. So sort of the western and north side of the railroad tracks are wooded and trailed areas. It totals in at 101 acres. There's 2.3 miles of existing trails in the park. The ball complex has one full-sized field, so this is a rather large field, 3 Little League fields, and 2 softball fields. At this point, not all the fields are lit either. So some of the key park features include this legacy baseball and softball soccer complex. If you look back on historic aerials of this parcel, there were ball fields in there in the 50s and 60s. They've moved around quite a bit, but there were ball fields for decades at this point. This extensive trail network through the park is really a gem. The trails are quite beautiful. We have the Minnehaha Creek corridor running through the park, which is really spectacular. We do have a very scenic bridge that crosses the creek through this park. Part of the issue, and something we're looking closely at, is how do you get into this park? So there's a lot of entrances, there's a variety of small parking lots. Are they doing what they need to do to get people closer to the park? Might they need improvements? Those are some of the things that we're thinking through. There is some adjacency to larger scale regional trails. So Three Rivers Park District has a regional trail to the south, and there's a new connection happening along Plymouth, just to the west here. We have a nearby commercial area. DQ gets very popular in the summer. And Minnetonka Mills Park is sort of a cultural hub. Spooktacular come up later tonight. So how can Big Willow sort of connect more regionally to these center hubs? Again, the restoration and maintenance plan was created earlier this year. We are ongoing working with our volunteers. We have some really hardcore volunteers out there that have been doing spectacular work, removing invasive species, installing native seed mixes. So we want to continue to support that through this master planning process, make sure this document really emphasizes the role of those volunteers and the restoration in terms of the natural resources in this park. So some of the opportunities that we look at through this master planning process, I'll talk quite a bit about this sense of place. We want to make sure that when you're in Big Willow Park, you get a sense of it being special. You're there for the ball fields, or you're there walking in the trails. You get a sense that there's something unique, but it's part of the overall Minnetonka Trail and Park system. Again, accessibility and safety through the ball complex is quite a concern. We want to highlight and improve the natural resources along that creek corridor. There's lots of upland in the park, some beautiful oak woodlands, and some opportunities to create quite a bit of ecological diversity in the park. There are some opportunities that I'll get into in terms of improving the trail network. There are some odd dead ends in terms of the trails that have developed over the years, so we have some ideas to improve that loop system to be able to get you through the park a little bit more easily. There are large turf grass parcels, which I'll show in an aerial. Over the years, the city have bought residential properties that are now part of Big Willow Park, but have sort of been absorbed into the park footprint over the years. So there are some opportunities in those turf grass parcels along the creek. And then generally, as I mentioned, connectivity along Minnetonka Boulevard to the west. So some of the constraints, there's a large active railroad corridor through the park. A lot of the park, like a lot of our parks, are large wetland complexes. This one's particularly dynamic. The way that Grays Bay Dam opens and closes changes the elevation of the creek quite rapidly. We are constrained by the railroad crossing that the trail goes underneath. That leads to flooding of the trail network at given times of the year, depending on what the creek's doing, how high the water is. We certainly know that the ball field complex gets very popular at times when there's regional tournaments going on and the parking gets maxed out. So again, I wanted to highlight the restoration and maintenance plan. Through this process, we identify target plant communities. We've been working with our local contractors, which are going to be doing more and more work coming up this fall, actually, supporting the volunteer work, and as well as our city staff who are working in the park doing that work as well. This is, again, about removal of those invasive species and establishing climate change resilient plant communities through our sort of pot of resources that we get to pull from. So we are going through this inventory analysis process. We are working with Bolton and Mank, a local engineering firm. They work with us on a lot of things. So I'm going to showcase some figures that will be included in the draft master plan. There's a lot of detail on here. I don't expect you to be able to read this at this point. This is more about the process at this point. So this inventory analysis is about identifying issues related to accessibility, infrastructure, and amenity conditions. So we had our consultant walk out there, look closely at the trails, look closely at things like the entrances to the bathroom facilities. Are there potential ADA concerns in some of these locations? So we look closely at things like slopes on the trails and the sidewalks leading into the ball complex. Issues like railings, whether or not they're needed on some retaining walls, the general surfacing, what the condition of these asphalt and sidewalk concrete sidewalks look like these days. I mentioned the threshold gaps at some of the bathrooms. General concerns about parking. There's not enough, but there's really not a whole lot of opportunity potentially for us to increase the amount of parking. So this is a really detailed process to really get a sense of the current condition and help sort of prioritize budgeting in the future. So we are going through outreach and engagement at this point. You've probably seen signs up in the park. There's orange signs all over the place. They have a QR code that take us to Minnetonka Matters. We're getting good feedback on Minnetonka Matters already, as we did with these park projects. At the city open house, we tabled, and I had a lot of people walk up and pointing at parts of the park, where they come in, what they enjoy about the park most, which is always fun. We also had a presence at the Latino Cultural Heritage event. This was over in Hopkins. That was about 6 or 8 weeks ago or so. So far on Minnetonka Matters and through the public survey that we host on Minnetonka Matters, we've had 1,400 visits to the site, unique visits. We've had 49 downloads of the restoration and maintenance plan, so sort of doubling up on this master planning effort and how it sort of was supported by the restoration work going on. So we use this as an opportunity to point people to the restoration and maintenance plans, and we've got 49 downloads of that. And so far, we have 308 survey responses. And as we compile that data from the survey response, you'll see those in the draft master plan as we get ready to prepare that. So there's a lot happening on this figure. Pardon me at this point, but what I see through the park are really 5 key areas. So moving east to west. The ball complex I'm calling Area 1 at this point. Area 2 is north of the tracks. Area 3 is what I'm calling the creek overlook. That's those residences along, you got a pointer here actually. That's the residences along Minnetonka Boulevard here. Then to the west of Big Willow, there's actually a separate park called Mills Landing Park. So we're sort of looping in Area 4 as Mills Landing and a new parcel that we've recently acquired between Big Willow Park and Mills Landing Park, which I'll talk about. I'll talk about these areas in more detail. And then finally, in reference to connectivity to the west, what I'm calling Area 5, this western commercial area. So a little detail on each one of these. Here's a better look at that. So these are the sorts of figures you'll see in the master plan, highlighting opportunities at this point. This is the consultant and our staff thinking, sort of throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. What are we seeing as easy opportunities in terms of sort of if the low-hanging fruit was to be grabbed, what could we improve in the park? So there's a lot of ideas in here, and let me zoom in a little closer to each one of these. So, yeah, I know, it's a lot. So the ball field complex, concourse improvement. So we see potential for gathering opportunities, shade and seating through that area. It's quite open. It can get a little hot at times. We do get a lot of foot traffic. We want to make sure that that can get in and out of there quite easily. There are some accessibility concerns on some of the slopes of those sidewalks through that area. The two southernmost Little League fields aren't lit at this point. There is a lot of lighting for the other fields, but there's some potential for additional field usage through added lighting on those southernmost fields. We've previously scheduled to replace the playground. So that'll be identified in this master plan as modernizing and creating more accessibility opportunities in this playground as we look to replace that in the future. There's some high-level ideas for how do we get more parking in here. Really, this is our attempt to, think generally high level. If we were able to get any more parking, where could it go? It's really tight out there. There's a lot of steep slopes through here, so the consultant had included this new parking terrace. I don't really think that's possible, frankly. But we wanted to make sure we're looking as closely as we can at the opportunities for additional parking. Yes, Ann.
So when are the games played when Public Works people are at work?
At times, yes. At times, and Darren can help in, or Kelly.
I just was wondering if there was an opportunity to overflow into...
They do. Oh, yeah, they do.
And they,
Yeah.
in fact, overflow and park in the grass
Oh, okay.
when it gets really busy.
During the summer, school's out, we'll often see tournaments start midday, that the fields will start to fill up. And we'll get advance warning from our staff saying, hey, there's going to be a tourney, so try to park a little further away or beware when you come and go. But yeah, it fills up fast. And people end up crossing Minnetonka Boulevard, Gilliam's Field, and parking over there. So the parking gets maxed out for sure.
Yeah, when all the fields are being used, then that's when it really gets over the top. So there's a couple times during the year when they're all used at the same time as softball, soccer, baseball, Little League. Every field has something going on. That's when, luckily it doesn't happen too often, but yeah, it does happen. But even when, say if there's no soccer, it's still pretty full.
So we got a lot of comments so far from the folks I talked to about parking overflowing. I certainly see it working out of that office there. So what could we possibly do? Probably not a whole lot, but we want to look closely at what potential there might be. To the west, there's a bit of a trail dead end at this point. Folks end up walking down a sort of abandoned asphalt trail. There's a fairly nice gazebo, a really nice gazebo that overlooks the wetland. If you look at historic aerials through this area here, there were boardwalks that stretched out into this wetland, into a bit of open water there. So we do see some opportunity to enhance the views through there. Certainly emphasize how beautiful that shelter is and the sort of the vista over the wetland that it can provide. And then some potential for green infrastructure, stormwater BMPs. We end up storing a lot of snow out there in the winter, sort of emergency storage. So just what could we do in terms of stormwater quality improvement, knowing that the creek is right there. So north of the tracks, that's this area up here, Minnesota shaped. This is generally nature preserve. This is a wooded area. There's sort of a north-south trail, primary trail that we care for, but a lot of walking paths back in the woods there. There's a small parking lot in the northwest corner with about 8 to 10 stalls or so. So we do see some opportunity for park signage and trash cans and a little more welcoming of this small parking lot in the northwest corner potentially. My call out is off the figure here, but there is some interpretation related to sort of this feud between two mills. There was the Burwell family mill, and then there was another mill up here that were feuding.
St. Albans.
St. Albans, yes, that's right. Interesting history of our city and an opportunity to sort of showcase that. There's some legacy earthwork through there where they had I guess, impounded the creek and brought water through to run the mills. So some of that is still evident in the woods up there, so opportunity to interpret the history a little bit more. Yep.
A streetcar line also ran through there.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
Is that where that path is that kind of runs?
It's hard to see it. It goes east to west, and it kind of curves a little bit. When you're on the main trail, you kind of go up over a little rise, and that's where it cuts through.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So lots of beautiful trails on the north side, but what ends up happening, especially when the path is flooded down here under the railroad bridge, is that folks end up clambering over the trail, and that should not show that as a trail. That is not an official trail.
It's heavily used.
Yes. Despite the signs there saying you're not allowed to go through there, Dave. So part of the problem is that folks get down to this dead end and they don't feel like turning around. They want to continue their adventure, so they'll scramble up over the trail or the railroad. So the post plan had identified using our wetlands as opportunities for additional trails and potentially boardwalks. So initially, we kept thinking about if we could create a trail loop with a new boardwalk following the creek through this wetland here, to at least make that experience for people on the north side of the park to be able to,
That'd be nice.
to create a loop through there. The creek is quite beautiful. It meanders. This is the St. Albans Mills condos. They've done a lot of restoration on their slopes, very significant buckthorn removal. So it's quite scenic through there. So opportunity to create a bit more of a loop system on the north side of the tracks. So Area 3, the creek overlook. There were 2 residential properties in here. This is, first off, a really low-hanging fruit in terms of ecological restoration. So we do mow this area now. It is primarily turf grass. After we tore down those houses, we just replaced it with turf grass when we mow it. But there are beautiful white oaks, mature white oaks in that area. And it's an opportunity to remove some of that turf grass, create some trail networks through that area, and easily install sunnier loving native perennial grasses and forbs through that area to really enhance the corridor of the creek through that area. And there is beautiful topography. So I do see folks walking through that area and enjoying it now, but it could be nicer. Yes, Ann?
There'd be an opportunity under the oaks to do some soft landings, plantings with some signage so that people could think about doing that in their own yard.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a lot, this is a bit busy here, but keep in mind this is an early draft. One of the post-plan elements that were identified was we do not have enough reservable gazebo or picnic shelters in the city, and we want to look at the opportunity for those in other park spaces. So this seems like an opportunity, but it would require additional parking and potentially a bathroom amenity. So we would, through this master planning process, be looking closer at this area, whether or not that would be appropriate. We do know that the gazebo in Lone Lake Park gets booked quite a bit. And generally, from our surveys, we understand that they would get reserved for family reunions and parties and barbecues and that sort of thing. But there would need to be some infrastructure installed as a part of that. So fitting that in with the restoration goals and potentially a new creek canoe launch. There's an old canoe launch in that area that's sort of awkward, standing out on the creek bank there. And knowing what an adventure it is when they have the dam open to come down in a canoe and go further. Yeah, it's pretty spectacular.
Tubers.
Matt, is there any history in this area? Because I've walked up along the hill there, and there's like an old homestead site. There's a brick wall, or there's some kind of retaining wall.
Yeah.
What's that about?
So there was a mansion on that parcel. So there's 2 brick pillars adjacent to the sort of the main parking lot, I'd call it, right across from Applewood Point there. There are 2 brick pillars, and then there's an old staircase that's somewhat been absorbed by the woods again. But there was a driveway through there and a old mansion, or estate, I guess you'd call it. And at some point, I believe in the 60s, that the city acquired that property. And it's been Big Willow Park ever since. But yeah, there's a sort of a footprint of a house when you walk up that. Yes. And we never took down those brick pillars. There's still some posts and some of that stairs. I find it interesting, a little bit of history as the trees kind of push into the staircase.
Sign with history.
Yeah, sure.
I think it goes back to somewhere on one of the historical websites, I finally found what the heck that was.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember right, it was, goes back to the guys in Burwell, I guess, who did the,
Oh, is that right?
around that time, I think.
Sure. You can see it on some of the earliest aerials that we have. It's a little hard to make out, but yeah.
Well, to Dave's point, in the same way that we have some signage about the mills over by the, maybe
Yep.
there's an interesting historical footnote.
Yep, exactly. These plans are sort of an opportunity for us to work with the Minnetonka Historical Society and determine is it an interesting enough story to do some permanent signage? Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, kind of like Nuremberg, they took that down, although it was part of the conditions of the
Yeah,
donation.
sure.
But it might be interesting to see what that original structure looked like as an example.
Absolutely.
And you've, I don't know if you're going to go back to Area 2, but there's another boardwalk you're thinking about that goes,
Oh, yes, through
Yeah.
here. So connecting between the sort of the creek overlook and the ball field complex. So let me
right at the
go
bottom end there?
back up to here.
Yeah, okay,
So
yeah.
part of here's the existing bridge that we do recognize is steep on both sides and has some repair needs. We're planning to replace that bridge in the relatively nearish future. It's a larger expense, though, certainly. But some of the issues with the trail becoming a dead end when it flooded also arise on the south side of the railroad tracks there. So we are thinking of a possibility of creating a loop from the west side of the ball fields, along the south side of the tracks, and then on the popular trail network from the parking lot. So between games, you'd be able to potentially make that loop and hopefully prevent people from scrambling over the railroad tracks and just to, again, further be able to walk along the creek and sort of make a loop rather than backtracking on yourself.
And while you're on that one, the thinking on the trail, the asphalt trail from the soccer field down to the Applewood.
Yeah. So
How's that going to work?
That's really steep, so
Yeah.
that's a bit of a problem. So there are challenges with how steep that is. But there are very beautiful oaks through that area. We are seeing some oak death. So that's sort of, we need to weigh the pros and cons of what earthwork would need to happen to get that trail to be a more comfortable slope, safer slope through that area, because it is quite
Yeah.
steep. There are some opportunities to, if we were to create a circuit through here, to keep a trail
Low.
along the toe of the slope through there.
Good.
But we do need to look closer at what trees would we be removing, what would that earthwork look like to get a trail benched into that location. But yeah, creating that connection without
nice.
having to go up by the soccer fields would be really cool to be able to get along there.
From a long-term plan, I would love to see a trail from Big Willow all the way to 494.
Sure, yes. So I hinted that a little bit here. So some sort of
West.
connectivity to the west, knowing that we have sort of a chain of
Yeah.
Yep.
nodes, if you will. So we have Big Willow through this commercial district to the Burwell House site,
Yeah.
all the way to Civic Center and beyond.
Yeah.
What would that connection look like? How would we possibly be able to accomplish that? I think quite a bit about the trail, the creek being behind these businesses here. These are big ideas, community
Big ideas are
development. Yeah. But could we create access along the creek some way to keep people away from the street and enjoying the creek there a little bit more? We would have to work with those businesses, certainly.
Or even in front of the businesses
Yep.
so that people go spend money there.
But that connection,
Yeah.
east-west, yes.
And I think I
absolutely.
was thinking about the connections too to the Three Rivers Park District. On the other side, maybe a separated grade crossing because Minnetonka is so busy.
Yep. So using these park master plans to think ahead of what connections are potential opportunities do we want to sort of set the stage for with this master plan?
Jennifer's question, actually, and this maybe you don't know yet, but what is Three Rivers
plan to cross Minnetonka Boulevard?
If
It's
they
essentially
have
going to be the same. It's going to be through the intersection the way it happens
The
now.
intersection that exists. So
Yep.
you'd go straight south across to where St. David's Church is, and then along the.
Correct.
Main-
Then
Okay.
you'd go a little bit west, and then you'd
Okay.
turn down Baker. Yep.
But that's quite a distance from the
It is.
ball field,
Oh,
so,
yeah,
you
but
know.
it's close to this,
Yep. We do have a bike lane
along
in
there.
front of these businesses now, which is a relatively recent addition. But is that the best solution? So there's a concept called a small area plan, and we just hint at it here because it's not in the park, obviously. But small area plan would address that sort of regional connectivity and walkability, streetscaping. How does that tie into connectivity to
Do
the
we
park?
have access to that creek, or is that private property?
Most of it's private property.
Okay. That would be really nice, though, because it's, a lot of people go hit DQ up and then they go down to the creek there.
Yeah, and I understand, that's where the businesses store their dumpsters and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But could we somehow use that amenity? We had this very amazing leadership, however long ago, at the city where we were spending a good chunk of change to buy these properties, to have more creek, to have more park around the creek. So what opportunities might arise in the future
be
where
cool.
we can create some
Or even
more creek
asking for a
access?
donated easement to help. And we would, the city would look at doing the development of the trail if they would be some kind of a cooperative group.
Whenever I get a chance to include those sort of big ideas in these plans, I'm going to take them.
All they have to do is talk to the guy that owns the drive-in off the Lake Minnetonka Trail out in Mound, where the trail goes right along the
yeah.
back of the drive-in,
Sure.
and they get a lot of business.
These are. I'm pushing the scope on my
Yeah.
Big Willow Park master planning here a little bit. Just kind of sneaking some of that stuff in here. So questions, Creek Overlook, Area 3, sort of the heart of the park to some degree.
So
The
that-
north
that-
side is really just wooded and beautiful trails through there, so a lot of ecological restoration happening on that north side of the creek.
Is the thinking on some of those trails, and I'm particularly thinking of the one that's in Area 2 that goes right where your square is, the rectangle for the mills, the up.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
the one that goes all the way out to the creek and then back along the,
Yep.
it's informal, but it's heavily, is there any chance, thought about making that more of a actual trail? Because
Yes.
everyone uses it and it's really nice.
So through this process, again, we'll go through this sort of inventorying of
highway.
the primary trails and then the informal ones. So the ones that aren't just cow paths that are redundant of one another, but making these connections where folks are going to want to get to the creek. So where does it make sense for us to formalize a little trail that can get you near the creek, and we can do some stabilization and erosion prevention to let people get a little closer to the creek without it just being sort of a worn
So that's
down
in scope?
footpath. Yeah, that's
Okay.
sort of this trails planning aspect of this. So we would then sort of use this document to formalize the trail network.
The other advantage of making this a linear park all the way to Civic Center potentially is that it would help with wildlife, possibly keep them off the roads and just a way for
Well, we do
our
know
little fellow creatures to
Yep.
move back and forth.
the creek is an amazingly diverse corridor, ecological corridor. It just is. So a lot of our restoration is focused around enhancing the creek corridor, pollinator habitat up and down it, knowing that a lot of birds will certainly be near the creek. So whatever we could do to enhance that in terms of landscape ecology and the ecological corridor that the creek is, we're going to look to take it.
Is that bridge at the left side of number 4, is that the existing little bridge that goes to St. David?
No. So this is the cul-de-sac at the end here. So our consultant drew in, is there a possibility to add a
okay.
connection? So this doesn't exist. The city owns two or three parcels on the north side of the creek here. Then it's private residences again. But we do have a trail that comes off of Burwell Drive into
Right, that
the
goes
park.
there.
So we were thinking, could we connect somehow
That would be
through
great.
city-owned property through here? We would need an additional bridge. We would be coming through this relatively private cul-de-sac, so we'd have to think very, very carefully about that. But it does seem like an opportunity to connect and create a larger trail loop.
I grew up on Burwell Drive, so there's like an outlot. Is that what you're talking
Yes,
about? I thought
yeah.
there was only one.
No, I believe we own 3 parcels
Really?
through here.
So
Yeah.
that's in our property.
Yes,
No, I
it's
feel-
not part of the park officially.
plaque.
No, but
it is
it's-
city-owned, yes.
That'd be great.
Huh.
Yep. And then there was talk about trail loops via another bridge, so closer to the existing one, but sort of overlooking the creek by this potential new picnic shelter area. Would a second bridge make sense here? Just knowing how popular these bridges are, that people love to get
Yeah.
on them and take pictures, and it's really cool to look down on the creek, certainly.
I've watched people paint the bridge, in fact, too. There was an artist
Yep.
down there.
Yeah.
We have
There's
a
a
bridge at
rope
the
swing
Burwell
there,
House,
too.
we have
You
this
know where the rope
bridge,
swing
we
is
have
on
a
the north
bridge
side?
behind the Civic Center. So wherever we have opportunity to cross and interact with the creek, we want to look at taking those. But those are relatively large expenses, obviously. So thinking that through very carefully with this planning process. Area 4 and Area 5. Area 5's the commercial area. We talked about that quite a bit. But Area 4 is this Mills Landing Park with a little bit of a parking lot. There's an opportunity to improve that. We do keep a porta-john there, a seasonal bathroom. And this parcel here that we now own. So through the off-leash discussions, the community work group did identify the potential of sort of a suburban/urban fenced-in dog park adjacent to this parking lot on this land that we now own, the city now owns. So fairly low-hanging fruit in terms of potential for a more formal off-leash area. It's over an acre. It's all upland. There is some wetland along there, so it wouldn't be that shape. Don't get hung up on those shapes. It would have to fit in there a little bit better. But it would be, fairly wooded. There's a lot of buckthorn in there. We'd have to open it quite a bit. But it seems like a pretty good opportunity to implement an off-leash area. So we're going to include that in this master plan. Think through that a little bit closer. So each one of these zones, these areas, will have a sort of a more detailed concept in the draft version of the plan. So next steps, our survey is going to close in a few weeks here. The draft master plan will be published for community feedback early winter. Then it'll come back to you folks for additional comments. I'll present it again with more of the details for each one of these areas. And at that point, I'll have sort of a summary of what we're hearing from the community. And then finalizing the master plan over the winter at some point, and eventually sending it to City Council per your direction for adoption, late winter, early spring or so. So a lot to do until then. We're still hearing a lot from the community. I get calls quite often. With the signs up in the park, that certainly gets a lot of attention. But really, I see the draft version of this plan being an opportunity for people to really dive in and understand some of these larger ideas, how we go through this process of the planning, and give people something to react to. I feel like we're sort of needing that reaction out of folks. So
Before we go to the questions, just to
Yes.
clarify this, winter 2026, is that December 2026 or January, February 2026?
I think we're still figuring that schedule.
Because you got
so-
early winter and then you got early 2026 and late.
Yeah, true. I should have said late fall.
So it's later next year.
No,
This year.
Okay,
year.
good.
It's
Okay,
January,
okay,
February.
better. That's better. Okay, good.
The new year's in here.
Okay.
The upcoming new year.
Okay. Okay.
So over the winter, this winter.
This winter. Questions?
So it's moving fast, but I think I've said it before, that I thought you did a really nice job with the signage. I walk there every day. Ran into Leslie last week or so. And so I just want to give you guys good kudos, because the message is out there about the master planning, every intersection, every location. If you're a user in the park, you're going to see that there's that master planning process going on.
And the signs get a lot of attention, and people, sometimes I get, oh geez, why are you changing the park? And that's not necessarily what we're doing. So just making it clear that, we are open to feedback, but it doesn't mean we're definitely changing something or we're forcing change where we don't think it's necessary. So it's
And
really supposed to be a thoughtful process.
And then the second was based on our meeting not too long ago with the Sustainability Committee that's relatively new. I'm just wondering if we can incorporate their input as well, since it maybe wasn't included because it didn't exist before. I think it'd be really good to hear that feedback and tie the park board and the park master planning into other initiatives going on in the city.
Absolutely. Our internal DEI folks turned us onto this Latino event, the cultural event that we tabled at, knowing that there's an active soccer field there, football.
Yeah. Ann, did you have a question?
I had a comment, maybe it's a question. I think about when we went on the tour and we saw the Glen Lake fields and that lovely area with the flowers and the seating, and then compared to the Big Willow complex, which is kind of flat and concrete-ish. I realize that there's not probably the same opportunities at Big Willow, but it seems like something to try to aim for. I don't know. I can't visualize how to make it better, but
Well, part of this planning document is to find precedents. So what makes a field complex like that welcoming and gets people to sort of stand around with their team in between games and give out snacks to the little kids and make it very welcoming? And the Mighty Mites Fields does a really tremendous job of that. They have that topography. You can look down on the field. It's a little more limited here, but what placemaking amenities can be added, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. It's a bit of a blank slate.
Caleb?
Yeah, so I was wondering, or I guess wanting to emphasize that if there's a new off-leash fenced dog space, it will likely be very popular. And because it's kind of currently separate from the sports focus,
Yeah.
that for that purpose alone, it would be very important, in my opinion, to make sure there's trail connectivity direct between the two, not just along the road, but actually through, if possible, the great nature opportunities. My experiences there personally as a parent watching sports, and in between games or before the game starts, it's kind of a bummer when you come upon a dead end.
Sure, yeah.
And it
certainly,
not
yeah.
only is a bummer, but it also, I remember feeling like, oh, what is this about?
Yeah.
Who
it's
thought
odd.
this up? And so I think, and I'm not sure people don't have that same response of like, what, you just had me walk to a dead end? So I think the more we can focus on connecting those dead ends, the better. And of course, there's significant inclusion challenges with the bridge.
Yeah, yep.
And so that needs to be a high priority for mitigation. And the playground, instead of trying to get ADA compliance, it'd be nice to see us kind of have an equity-centered approach to like a playground redesign or a playground upgrade that goes beyond that and really is, like I said, equity-centered and fully inclusive for folks who might be on motorized wheelchairs or manual wheelchairs. So those are some of the features that I think would be really, really nice. Those connectivities for the dog park visitors or people who are there really for maybe for the sports. But then, hey, I can walk through this nature path over to the dog park, let my dog have some social and physical time, and then walk back through that nature space too.
Other questions or comments? Oh, I've got a couple. Question first. Can you go back to one of those? That one's fine. Area 2. There's a old Minnetonka Loop trails.
Yeah, uh-huh.
You know, whatever that's called, is that right?
Signs, yeah.
Minnetonka Loop Trails? Because there's that loop trail that exits right out the top of the park across
Yep.
Cedar Lake Road and heads towards Hillaway, but stops somewhere by Bentry. Is there, and then this isn't Big Willow, but it kind of is if we're talking about going to 494. I mean, is there any chance somehow that could actually, you know, to Caleb's point, it's a dead end. You know what I mean? And it'd be really cool if it got all the way to Hillaway.
Sure.
Because then you could bridge Hillaway to Meadow, conceivably. Anyways, so just as a thought, I don't know if you guys, it's kind of out of scope, but just to be thinking
I
about
haven't
that.
considered it, but I know what you're referring to. No, we haven't talked about it yet. So, Three Rivers is improving their trail on the east side
Right.
of Plymouth here, and potentially a bike bridge on the
Oh.
east side of the
Railroad tracks?
vehicular bridge here. Yeah, so they're going to have to add there. So a lot of bike traffic along there. So potential for them to get pulled into our other surrounding parks.
I just want to compliment you on this. I think this looks really exciting. This is our first real master plan. What I mean by that is Purgatory was totally hijacked by a single issue. And so it really wasn't, in my mind, ever master planned. And I think the kind of thinking that's been going into this is really exciting. And again, you do have this sort of two weird areas. You've got heavily athletic, which doesn't even show up here, and then all this excitement over here. So I just want to applaud the effort so far, and it's this, I think, will be kind of a real master plan, which is great.
It's a very exciting opportunity.
Anything else?
I would just add, again, what I'm hearing from everybody and the connectivity and the thoughts that you are working with the consultant seems to match what the park needs with the dead end and the connectivity. Bringing back boardwalks, I think, would really bring in more people
Yeah,
to the park too.
You've been to Dell Road, right? The Eden Prairie one, just south
Yes.
of. I mean, what they did with
Yeah,
boardwalks
it's cool.
is really kind of cool, and that's kind of what you're on a small scale here. Which
Yeah,
is great.
So looking more closely at, modern technology for boardwalks. There's all different types. Like how wide are they? Do we need to drive over them and clear snow off,
Right.
or are they more just pedestrian? There's a lot of options, and we're going to lay that out in this
Yeah,
document.
great.
And I think to that point, you just jogged my memory. Do we really need, a 10-ton bridge to go over, that as a result you can't get up there in the wintertime? I think I brought up, the challenge of trying to go up that slippery slope,
Yeah.
and I'm an able-bodied
That's
person.
a challenge for anyone.
It is, but it's kind of fun. But at the same point, we want to make sure it's accessible to everyone, and you can tell it's built for a vehicle to go over, and I'm sure that's great for maintenance, but is that really needed? Is there different access points?
Well, there's public safety, and if there's somebody has a terrible accident, you need to get a vehicle up there to extract them. There's that.
Yeah.
But I agree that if it could be,
They better have four-wheel drive in the winter.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
While the bridge
I
may
see.
fit that,
Yeah.
the vehicle may not make
Yeah.
it. So nice job, and again, the connectivities, and people like looping and not coming to dead ends. And I know you get to the dead end at the creek, so you're like, okay, this is great at the creek, but I mean, the next step, a more probably adventurous, is walking over stones if it's low enough to get to the other side.
Yep.
But maybe even a bridge at that location is
Sure.
an idea too,
Yep.
to connect to the rest of the trail system.
And if, from a public safety standpoint, if you can get to wherever the human is, from, maybe you can get into the park from the other side so that the bridge wouldn't have to be vehicles.
For instance, I do
Saving.
believe we can get trucks down here off of Plymouth.
Yeah, you can.
that's a driveway.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then into the park this way. So
It just would make it much more accessible for people with disabilities and not having disabilities, for everyone.
Yep.
Make it inclusive.
For sure.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to add, just to reiterate, again, this will be coming back as a more formal draft plan. Hopefully the benefit for you to see this and start to hear about it now is it's a lot to take in. So just sort of get an introduction to it, know what kinds of things that Matt's hearing and what the consultants are thinking, and then you'll actually get to see that in the plan. So it's not the first time you're seeing it. And then we would still be looking for feedback from the park board along with the public. So we always want to make sure to go back to the public to say, okay, this is what we're thinking. Now what's your reaction? So that'll happen, and then basically a final draft would come to the park board for a recommendation of approval to the city council. So just to sort of reiterate that process.
This has been very helpful to see something that's concrete versus just conceptual,
Yeah.
more
Yes.
specific than this is a master plan.
Part of the goal tonight, too, was while we have these lingering warmish days, to plant some of these seeds about what we're thinking through. So if you do have an opportunity to go see some of these locations and think through where these trail connections or, see them before we get too cold and nasty out there.
Which is this weekend.
It's never too cold. Great, well, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
So now we're moved to 7B, the Park Board Strategic Plan and 2026 Work Plan.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ingraham and Park Board members. So this is something that's new for our newer members of the Park Board. Every year, the Park Board reviews your strategic plan, and so we're going to walk through it tonight. This will be the first time you see that, and then it will come back in December, so you'll have some chance to have some discussion around it, deliberate if you want to make any updates or changes before it comes back. So we'll walk through the strategic plan, but also relatively new this year. I say relatively because last year we tried to create somewhat of a work plan for the park board. It was not quite as formal as what you're seeing this year because the council is now reviewing the work plans for all of the boards and commissions. So they will be doing that in January. So actually the chair, Dave, and I will be presenting to the council in January for review of your actual work plan for 2026. So with that, what we'll do is just sort of walk through the strategic plan section by section. I won't read every word. It was in your packet. And we'll talk about the strategic plan first, and then we'll turn towards the actual work plan for 2026. The strategic plan is, again, it's a plan for the park board. It's meant to be sort of that high-level guidance document to provide some goals and direction for the park board. And then the work plan is much more specific on action items that will take place next year. So Matt has it up on the screen. Again, it's also in your packet. So you do have a vision and a mission. Your vision is to an inclusive city with outstanding parks and recreational opportunities within a healthy and biodiverse natural environment. And the mission is to proactively advise the City Council in ways that will conserve and enhance Minnetonka's natural resources, promote quality and inclusive recreation opportunities, natural amenities, and facilities to meet the needs of all, provide a forum for public engagement regarding our parks, trails, athletic facilities, and natural resources, and adhere to the goals and strategies of the Natural Resources Master Plan, what we call the NRMP, and the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Plan, or the POST Plan. So just want to pause quickly and see if there's any thoughts or concerns or comments on that.
And maybe some quick background. If I remember correctly, the park board worked with staff to come up with this vision and mission like in 2022 or 2023?
Correct. In 2021, the park board worked with an outside consultant to generate the strategic plan.
Yeah.
And then we refined it a year or two ago to include.
Correct.
some
And
tweaks.
Kat probably has more history in this, but every year it's come to the park board, but the last time it came to the park board was actually technically in 2024. And it's been a while because we changed the timing. It was coming earlier in the year, and now we're bringing it late in the year to accommodate the council's desire to see a work plan in January. Does that sound right?
Yeah, we've looked at it every year. I think when we looked at the vision and mission, we've just made some minor tweaks over the years. Haven't really, we have generally thought it was in a pretty good shape, but made minor tweaks, yes.
The strategic plan has been since before I started here, so it was in the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think we
we've
had, so 2001 is what I
That could
had
be,
as a
yeah.
record. Does that sound about right?
been- yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair?
Oh, Caleb.
So I was wondering if we could add to the second bullet point, equity. So promote equity, equality, and inclusive recreation, or however we want to layer it. But it's not listed. I appreciate the inclusive language that I'm seeing both in the vision and the mission. But the thing about equity that we should be taking into consideration, or we should have as our mission, is to ensure that there's not, inequitable distribution of amenities or activities or that sort of thing. Now we have specific like natural or physical barriers that prevent us from just creating perfectly equitable, every acre or every 10 acres there's this plot, this land, and this amenity. But to call back to it, I think is critical. I find it interesting as well that this is the first time I'm a new park board member. I started in February, but this is the first time I've been presented with the vision and mission. And in other groups that I'm a part of on a volunteer basis, this is part of every single meeting where we are refamiliarized with our vision and mission as we make decisions about policy, about funding, about whatever the components of our decision making are. It centers us, right? It gets us back to what we're really trying to focus on. So I would appreciate seeing it more as we go through our different times of meeting. But I'd also like to request that we consider adding the word equity and then actually working on that. This expands beyond just this term, but I'm also curious, and this perhaps is a work plan item, or for 2026, wherein we as a park board and/or staff and/or consulting firm does essentially a current state of equity analysis of both our park, natural space, and recreation offerings kind of report, and offers whatever grade or whatever like opportunities that we could then use as a work plan for subsequent years. But just the generation of that type of analysis might be really helpful to actually start working on, or to demonstrate for ourselves how well or not well are we accomplishing equity in our vision and our mission rather, and ways that we can improve, or ways we should be talking it up as a positive, as something we're already doing well in the ways that we are. So 2 points. Could we add a word, and then could we make that part of our one of our work plan items for the year?
Well, I think I hear from others, but I think having you guys look at how you might include equity as a term in there, and that's probably the right bullet, the second one. And Katie was nice enough to point out, if you go back to our prior agendas, we used to also have the vision and mission on the right-hand side of the page, so we should probably go back to that.
We did.
Oh, okay.
It probably was
That
a
was back in
formatting
the-
nightmare.
that was
but
back in the Kelly
it was
days.
very helpful.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, yes, we did have it there. When the city changed the software system, that we...
Software problems?
It's all formatting.
Well,
No, I can see that.
yeah, I mean, it is much easier for us to create reports and, there's a lot of efficiencies with the new software. We can see if we can get it in there.
We can actually
Okay,
add it.
great.
I discovered we can add language that
Perfect.
then shows up on every agenda. So you're right, we did have that on our agendas previously. We related every report back to one of the goals and strategies.
I'm being shown it
Okay?
right now. Another option, another opportunity, if it's not digital, because not all of us are going to have digital information in front of us, is just a lanyard that goes right here that says vision and mission. Trifold right there. So we're always looking at it as we're
Okay.
talking and thinking with one another about the agenda items.
So we can certainly add that to the agenda. That's actually pretty easy to do. As far as equity and putting that into the strategic plan, just want to make sure there's a consensus
Yeah,
on doing
it's a
that.
consensus. People good with that idea?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I think it fits really well in bullet 2 as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
And we don't need to wordsmith now. We'll bring back
Yeah.
some changes for you in December.
Perfect.
Okay. So moving on. So really there are, if I can scroll through, 4 high-level goals related to the strategic plan. So we'll walk through each one and just stop and pause and get any feedback. So the first one is to conserve natural resources and open space. And there are 4 strategies related to this. So providing feedback to assist staff in decision-making, reviewing and providing feedback on strategies and funding, and again, I won't read all of the words. Promote the city's efforts of conserving and restoring the community's natural resources, and providing guidance that aligns with the goals of both the natural resources master plan and the post plan. So I'll pause there and
Yeah, and let me jump in. These are our goals and strategies as a park board.
correct.
So these are, from my perspective, when I first saw these way back, these would seem pretty high level. But this is for us as a park board. This is not, staff has more rigorous sets of strategies and plans that support these more, I'll call them
Correct.
general high level ones. So,
I think I just have one, but it might be just more my issue with the conserve. I guess I like the conserve and the preserve and a preserve. Conservation. So I don't know if you guys went back and forth a lot with the conserve. And
we did. We did.
Yeah. So that I have to say it because it does. They have 2 different connotations, and I guess I'm okay with the conserve, and I know where we're at. I just would like to.
I can't remember why we ended
See,
up there.
conserve would include a preservation as well, and so.
And Kelly, I'm trying to figure out what we had before. I could try to find an old one. Because I remember this discussion, there was a lot of discussion around conserve versus preserve.
Yeah.
I don't remember the reasoning, but yes, I do remember
Yes.
the conversation.
Do you remember?
I remember the discussion. I don't remember the details have escaped me.
I didn't know they had different meanings.
They do, and it's more at the national level as well as at the state. And so you would have, like, a forest would be a conservation, and it would include outdoor recreation and hunting and fishing. And
Those protect.
a preservation would be more of a park where it's preserving and protecting. And so that's where I'm just maybe being an extrovert, thinking out loud about, is conserve reasonable in Minnetonka with what we're trying to do? And I guess I'm kind of leaning towards yes, even though I would like to see preserve, but I think preservation is a component of conservation, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
it's just some feedback maybe for discussion or others' thoughts.
The prior iteration where there was a lot of discussion, it was to protect natural resources and open space.
Yeah, and maybe that's my park and rec background. It is typically more protect versus conserve. Conserve is more flexible.
Do the best you can.
I think there was some discussion on if it's called preserving, that you're locking everything down as it is now. So the changes that are maybe being considered for Big Willow Park,
Right.
if it's preserved, then we're not touching anything. So you
Correct.
can't make any
Correct.
efforts to make improvements or change anything versus conserve. You're still looking at protecting most areas. You can still do some projects and enhance the parks. And I think that was
Yeah.
more the
I mean-
feeling that preserving, you're locking it down.
Right, and that's where, to me, that should be off the table from my perspective, knowing my background with Three Rivers Park District, which is 80% preservation, protect, not develop, and 20% develop. I know we don't have that, but then the state parks are even more. I would say they're probably developed at 3 to 5%. Somebody could probably argue with me from the state at that percentage, but it's quite low. And so then what I'm trying to figure out is we've got national, which I won't go into national because there's wilderness areas and things like that.
We still have those?
We do. Boundary Waters is an example in Minnesota.
Sorry.
And so I'm just kind of looking at where does it fit with the city, with what the city's trying to accomplish, and protecting, because there's always going to be demands. And I learned on my second meeting here, demands and the conflict potentially, which I think are not always mutually exclusive, but I'm okay with conserve at this point, unless somebody else wants to open it up and think about it more.
Thoughts?
As long as conserve is understood to include restore, because we're doing a lot of that.
Yeah, and I personally feel like that's heavily invested in a lot of our dialogue, restoration efforts, and so I'm comfortable with the way it is, especially after hearing Darren's comment about
Strategy 3 specifically says
Oh, yeah, right.
efforts of conserving and restoring communities' natural resources.
There's just nothing about protecting. And I guess that's maybe where, from my background, and because of the values of the citizens of Minnetonka, having a word protection somewhere in a strategy, maybe not necessarily the goal.
And strategy 4 talks about balancing the conservation of resources with providing recreational opportunities. So if I recall, when the park board discussed this and made some changes, it was the word conserve and conserving was, I think, meant to capture that preservation mindset of, preserving, not necessarily locking down, but preserving and balancing with human use.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we actually had, in 2023, we actually had language balancing the protection of natural resources with providing quality, and we changed it to the language that's here now.
Changed all the protection words to conserve.
Yeah.
Which
I don't remember why.
I'm okay with some of them. I just feel like it should be in
Somewhere.
one of them. Conservation usually does have a connotation of protection, but there's nothing in here about protecting our resources, and there's always going to be demands, commercial, residential, active recreation, dog parks.
so if strategy number 4 reference balancing the preservation of natural resources with the providing recreational that might capture what you're trying to
It
get at?
is, yeah, I think that really would be a good solution to include it, so it's not part of the goal, but it's part of a subcategory that protection is a part of what we need to do as a park board member.
Okay.
That's my
Are those
thought.
okay with that?
I think that sounds good.
I like that.
Okay, so
I have
we'll
a
see that.
question as I'm listening, and I don't want to wordsmith it because I don't know how to do it. But nowhere in here is a discussion of habitat restoration. I don't see the word habitat in here. And maybe that's the same as natural resources. Maybe it is. But to your point that, preserving, not just about human activity, but animal activity as
Right.
well. And because we have a spectacular corridor in the Minnehaha Creek watershed, maybe we should also include something about habitat.
The restoration on number 3 is where I see restoration of natural communities. That would be considered habitat restoration to me.
I will say, in general, we've used the term natural resources to refer to habitat. It could also include water and water quality, preservation of soil and soil health. So we've kind of used that to encapsulate habitat.
Yep.
But if you want to call it out too, that's fine.
Oh, that's helpful.
If we're still on goal 1,
We are.
Nate suggested, he emailed some of us, I think he meant to email you, sorry.
I forwarded it.
Okay. Explore and promote volunteer opportunities for a variety of abilities, skills, and interests that furthers the work of the Natural Resources Master Plan and fosters connections between neighbors and generations
As a strategy.
as a strategy.
Do you think that fits under goal 1?
That was his suggestion, but
I see it more in a goal 2, quite honestly.
okay, because we're talking about maintaining.
Right. Like, it's the how do you implement it versus the conserving and the preserving.
Well, I think possibly where number 1 is, we do a lot of restoration in areas where there are no trails or parks. I mean,
Active
active
use.
park use. So maybe that's why
I can see
it
that.
might fit better under 1. I kind of like that. I haven't seen that note yet, but I like the idea of because we rely on a lot of volunteers. It is a strategy we use.
We called out promoting volunteerism in strategy 3.
Right.
In there.
Oh yeah, we
First
do.
words promote, last words
Yeah,
volunteerism.
yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I think
It's making the point that you're-
was he trying to get at intergenerational?
Can you read it again? Because
I can, and he's here if you want to ask him.
oh, you're here.
I did.
This is all from yesterday, so not everyone's had a chance to read all through it.
We haven't had a chance to absorb it all. Okay, so I had asked a question about what does that mean? Increase the scope, let's see. Was meant to include specific language for 2 purposes. To increase the scope of volunteer opportunities promoted through the city. Managing buckthorn, for example, is limited to those with physical abilities and requires certain ages to handle the equipment. The city should explore and encourage multiple volunteer opportunities for people of various abilities, and the park board should ensure they're making every effort to do that.
Can you read the original statement though you wrote?
Yep.
inclusive volunteer.
Goal 1, to conserve natural resources and open spaces, consider adding language to highlight the communal benefits of volunteerism and add more inclusive language.
Huh.
Explore and promote volunteer opportunities for a variety of abilities, skills, and interests that furthers the work of the NRMP and fosters connections between neighbors and generations.
Well, having just walked from here to Jadana, you've got a poster on the stick that kind of asks that. Asks for volunteerism for natural resources, and has a picture of, it's almost kind of asking for what he's talking about. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to adding a fifth strategy around some of that language. That's more explicit than the implication on number 3.
So,
Did I read number 2 in his, there's increase the scope of volunteer opportunities so that it works for people of various abilities. And then there's specifically list the benefits of volunteering in community building with the park board's responsibility to ensure that the volunteer events the city promotes includes these benefits. For example, volunteer events shouldn't be advertised to one specific interest group, i.e. people who visit one park, but promoted to the community as a whole through multiple means. Which I kind of think we do, but maybe not well enough.
Well, I think for the standpoint of the park board, at least just my perspective, that last part's more prescriptive than we would need to be as a park board, but the idea of, promoting more, the kind of communal aspect of the volunteerism and stuff would be, because I think you're doing that. And maybe we need to do more of it, but I think, that's kind of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. I like that the promoting volunteer opportunities is more highlighted, and it goes to all abilities, and I like that component. And then I like the connections between neighbors and having people react or interact outdoors. And then I like that multi-generation piece. So I think it would be a nice expansion of what we have than just volunteerism.
so just from a process standpoint, we haven't seen what you're
Yeah,
referring to.
You got to just forward to you. since
I
you
just
started.
forwarded before this meeting started.
Okay, so if it's something that if there's something that the park board's interested in incorporating, and you're thinking this goal 1 is the area to do it, as staff, we can certainly take that and try to incorporate it in there without having to wordsmith right now, and
Right.
bring that back to you in December and see if that's what you like or if you want to make additional changes.
Is that something the park board's interested in?
I think so.
I don't know, in general, yes. I'm not sure everybody's had, I don't feel like that I've had a whole lot of time to absorb this. And I think a lot of Nate's ideas are good, so if there's some way that we can incorporate this without messing up the schedule too much, that
I
would
mean,
be good.
incorporate what we just talked about.
And his other ideas that we haven't gotten to yet.
Well, that's a little hard. That would be a little hard to do. So,
Yeah.
but this one sounds good.
So, I mean, again,
Yeah.
if this one sounds good, we can take a crack at incorporating it.
And the
bringing
park
it
board
back
can
to you.
absorb the stuff as well as staff, and at our next meeting, if there's other items, we could entertain them then too. I just don't mean, we can't stop now to review a document some of we haven't seen, but we'll have a chance to do that between now and our next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Okay.
Just for clarification, I forwarded it to Dave and then to Leslie, but I didn't take the time to make sure that there wasn't anybody else not on the.
I got it.
Okay. I
He
didn't
sent
know.
it to me.
Did everyone
Did
else get it?
Caleb, were you
Yeah.
copied? Okay.
Good.
Okay, so, I'm hearing there's interest in that portion of it. We'll take a look at that.
Thanks.
Ready to move on to goal 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so goal two is to renew and maintain parks and trails. So there's 5 high-level strategies here. Strategy 1 is participating in park and trail project process, and make recommendations to the city council. It's worded a little goofy, but it's just about reviewing and providing feedback and making recommendations on specific projects. Identify areas of the city that are deficient of adequate park or trail amenities, reviewing the city's trail improvement plan, and consider trail projects that will encourage outdoor recreation, reviewing conditions of park facilities, fields, amenities, and natural resources to inform park investment, and reviewing park rules and ordinances as needed. Are there any comments?
Under Goal 2
Changes?
Strategy 2, are we the ones who identify? Or is there a process through trail improvement
Trail
where
improvement
the city
plan.
recommends areas that are deficient?
Yeah, and I think this is part of, like, for instance, the Big Willow Master Plan. This is a vehicle for identifying what might be deficient in terms of trails and parks. So it's kind of wrapped into other planning and project work that is happening.
Yep.
And like the post plan looked at areas of the city
Right.
for
The park system as a whole.
park
Yep,
locations.
Yep.
So what about from an equity perspective? Are there certain subsets of the Minnetonka community who don't have enough of something? I don't know, soccer fields, basketball courts, some amenity that, do we know that? I mean, how do we find those people to ask?
The post plan did do quite a bit of surveying to that extent, where it looked at modern recreational opportunities and what are we missing potentially. So there's a lot of data in there, but then we bring that to these individual park master
Park
plans.
plans. Yeah, I remember that. So there is stored knowledge coming out of that will be incorporated in new plans.
So, I was wondering along the same line, when we, much of our approach in the park board as a process, agenda-driven group is piecemeal, and that eliminates our ability to inform on either a more global strategy, or, like park or citywide, system-wide, and so what can get lost is things like equity, because if we're focusing on if the main focus is on large park planning, then we're talking about a place where there is significant value, but to fund it, to enhance it, we're doing it at the expense of some place else that either has inequity or has perhaps lower access, lower investment amounts. So that's why I say if we aren't able to, either as a specific strategy or goal, have a equity-centered approach to how we decide what to fund, what to focus our time on in terms of renewal and maintenance of parks and trails, and review of athletic, this is goal 3, and park rec facilities and programs. If we're not equity-centered to start, then the focus becomes more piecemeal, and we can lose, again, based on time, focus, money, the ability to actually make a dent in equity if we're not focusing on it, making it the center of what we do. Am I making sense when I try to parse these two things? Bigger picture focus versus kind of the stepwise agenda-driven, narrow approach that makes it very hard to say, is this really where we want our equity-centered policy approach to go?
Well, the post plan, have you reviewed the post plan? Because, we can't, the post plan, I think, was our most recent attempt to, I kind of take umbrage with piecemeal, because by definition, we're dealing with stuff every meeting that are actionable for right now. But from the standpoint of a broader, more strategic view, that's really what on the natural resources side with the natural resource master plan was. But the post plan, I think, more specifically deals with, because it went through, what areas of the cities are underrepresented in terms of parks. What's the, I can't remember the magic number of distance from a park for each area. We know that the south, if I recall right, the southeast corner and the north side of the city are deficient in that sort of range of reach, so to speak. The master plans aren't only trying to say only the big parks matter. It's just that the master plans are for our largest parks that are the more complex. I mean, Darren's doing stuff all the time with, the neighborhood park restoration, not restoration, but revamping and refreshing and stuff. So, I think the post plan's a good place to start. And the language has changed since that, but I think the intent was still very much around, to your point, making sure everyone has access. And I remember there was a lot of outreach to all kinds of community groups. Even like Opus had a real interest in larger gathering spaces for their community of people. And Lone Lake Park was a source for them in that, which we need to do work on when we get that master plan. So
I think it's good feedback, though, for newer board members who didn't participate in the two big umbrella plans of post and natural resources plan. If you don't participate in it, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You didn't really live the path, and it doesn't. So there's something about our onboarding that we need to think about, or like maybe we have people who buddy up and kind of go through some of those big plans with new board members, because I can see how it would be perceived as we're just going through individual parks all the time and not revisiting our 20-year umbrella plans.
Even if you were here
that way.
Even if you were here, then you lose sight of what we're
because now it's been a couple of years.
Excuse me.
That's a good
I think it's
macro observation.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation, but
Figure out how to
there's
do it.
also the implementing. So it's the balance between implementing and taking action from the plan and not continuing to revamp or wordsmithing, like I'll take ownership, the word preservation versus conservation. You can get really dragged down by the details. And so I do see that there is that master plan, those overall reaching plans, and then we have a schedule where we're going to attack, if you will, each of the different projects, and that's where we've, with the staff, given us the priorities of the master planning. They just happen to be large parks, but you have to go through each one of them at the same point.
And the post plan, I mean, it is a system-wide plan. It did take a look at the entire park system. It does have a pretty in-depth prior implementation plan within the post plan. And so we are generally working through that implementation plan. And certainly if any park board member wants to sit down and talk through and really kind of try to better understand how it came to be, what went into it, staff is always happy to do that as well. I hear you about onboarding too. We are actually starting a new onboarding process with new boards and commission members, so that is coming. But it is pretty daunting to come in and not having been part of that larger system-wide planning effort, to just kind of walk in probably can feel a little daunting. I would agree.
Well, and I think that the plans take on the characteristics of the people who were representing the park board at the time. And I think the parks have changed from the balancing of natural resources with outdoor recreation is a common theme. But I would say the newer ones that we're hearing today and from the email that received is the equity. DEI has become a more centered concept that may not have been around at the time that the original one does. So I think there's some merits to include that. I know Minneapolis Park Board is a part of that, and Met Council, in fact, is the main driver of it. So I think I'm very supportive of it. So there might be some areas for us to bring in some of that newer stuff, but not lose the work of the people who came before us.
Well, for instance, again, as a newish member, I've not had an agenda, I've not had a meeting where the focus of the meeting or an agenda item was based on the post-plan result showing inequity. Today we're working on this problem or through this problem. So clearly we're not dealing with we don't have an equity-centered plan of action approach to our agenda, approach to our work items, even though we have a giant overarching document that demonstrates inequity. So if we find inequity and then we say we're, I guess, gradually going to work on it, we should ask ourselves, is gradual appropriate? And why does it not take precedent over other issues? Because the longer inequity continues in access to trails, parks, other amenities, the longer the kind of assault is on the people who live in those areas, the residents of those areas. So to me, the fact that I haven't seen it makes me concerned that the result of this overarching plan is not getting the necessary attention, which is why I'm saying we should have as strategy and or goal that we conduct our business in an equity-centered approach. That is the first focus.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure I necessarily agree. I see recreation, natural resources, balance is more of the approach that I see as primary. The balance between equity, like you mentioned, and the natural resources. We don't want to take out old growth. Help me out. Oaks. Thank you. Bur oak. Because we want to make sure that everybody, that it's equitable, that everyone can go in there. You had mentioned that there is, and has been since ADA came out in the 1990s, that balance. So I think equity should be a component of what we do and might be missing in some of this before when this was written, when it's a natural resource base versus an outdoor recreation. But I'm not quite sure I buy that equity is the main driver. I think it's a balance and something that we include in the matrix to make sure that it's a component that's being looked at. I don't think it should be the only thing we look at, which is kind of what I'm hearing you're advocating for. So that's where my perspective is a balance between multiple competing demands, needs, desires. And so I see my role as how to manage those and balance those multiple demands and funding sources, so that we can get our biggest bang for the buck without intentionally alienating anyone or making sure we look at things for oversight. I don't see Minnetonka as the same as Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, where they made the determination that their northern part of the city have been unequitable. I don't know if that's the case in Minnetonka, but I've lived in the north side of Minnetonka and the east side of Minnetonka, and I know that we have a very dispersed park system. I don't think it's the same situation as Minneapolis Park and Rec Board from a racial disparity perspective. But that's just my view, and that's not based on anything but facts, but perception of living in different parts of the city. So I'll stop now. But there's
It sounds like from the post plan we know there's inequity. That's my point. So if we know there's inequity and we're not making equity-centered a focus, then we have. And if we don't,
Have you reviewed the post plan?
equity
Have you
is.
reviewed the post plan?
No, I've not been able to
Okay.
review it in
Maybe
total.
we should
But if I'm
review the-
hearing that equity is demonstrated to be, or inequity has been demonstrated in that plan.
If you read the plan, I think you'll see what I referred to as inequity. Inequity was portions of the city, very few, but portions of the city where their reach to a park was greater than, say, the southwest corner. And some of that's because the north side of the city is high-density housing, and so the availability of a large meadow, Big Willow, Lone Lake, Purgatory Park isn't going to happen. So, but is there a park up there? Yeah, there's a couple of parks up there. And in the southeast part is Opus got a, actually Opus has got close access to Lone Lake, but it's again, it wasn't that we're inequitably treating people, it's that the location of various parks are differing. And so maybe the best thing for this to get this through a time perspective would be to go through that, and then if you've got some, I think you'd have some good input back to us on what you find in the post plan. And again, admittedly, language has changed since 2022.
2022, yeah.
But I think a lot of the intentions was still the same.
We could have a study session like the city council does and just go through the post plan.
That would be, if the park board wants to and staff can do that, that would be, we could have our very own special study session. Is that what they're calling them?
Yeah? I mean, we can certainly look
That
at
might
for
be
next year.
that might be a good idea.
We can, when we get to the work plan for next year, we can,
I might be the only one who's
What month do we get
here.
people?
That's what
January?
I was going to bring up
February?
as well.
It's coming up soon.
I would go.
No, I was going to say I might be the only one who was around back then.
Oh.
from the original post plan?
Yeah, I just saw that.
No, you were, Katie
Were you
was
there? Yeah. Okay. Good. So,
Okay.
another old timer.
It's good to have context for people who
Yeah.
lived through that and shared like the
Yeah.
preservation versus the conservation topic, because things do kind of come around again.
Okay, so I'm moving on from goal 2 unless I hear.
I did have one thing on goal 2.
Okay.
Relative to the parks and trails, I think it fits here. There was a lot of discussion at the end of last year around off-leash dogs, and we have this hanging open thing around additional off-leash dog areas. And I'm not sure if this belongs in a strategy under goal 2 or if it's just a work plan item. But I think somewhere we should reference the effort that is going under to determine if other off-leash dog areas are feasible and what they might be. And then obviously your Big Willow plan incorporates the idea of one. So I just think somewhere that should be visible. If no other reason, so if people are interested in dogs and they look at our plan, they don't go, see, they don't care about dogs. It's not even listed anywhere. So, but it could be a work plan item.
So, yeah, just a reminder, I mean, I would say this is meant to be a high-level strategic plan. That might be something better for a work plan, as a work plan action
Okay.
item.
Can I tweak it, your idea? I think last year we had something around safety. I remember adding a strategy around ensuring that we preserve safety in the parks, or we're mitigating risks, something like that. When the mayor told us our, job number 1 is, as a city, is public safety, and our big disconnect with Purgatory Park was maybe city council was prioritizing safety much higher on the priorities than we were. I think maybe a strategy around safety would be, I don't know the exact words, but we've had it before.
Would that be
To ensure that's top of mind for us.
Would that be goal 2?
Goal 2 of strategy 5 is park rules and ordinances. Isn't the dog ordinance,
Oh, yeah.
off-leash
It could fit in there.
ordinance is in there? I don't know if we want to get more specific and include safety.
Can you call it which one you said again?
So 5. Oh,
goal
goal 5.
2, number
strategy
5.
So the park rules and ordinance is, I think, where you would be most likely to ensure that we're maintaining safe spaces for people.
Okay.
Okay, we look at doing that?
We had that
Yeah.
one.
Great.
Thank you.
Are you taking notes on those?
Yes.
It's hard to talk and write at the same time.
Good one.
I think so too.
Okay, moving on to goal number 3, to provide quality athletic and park recreational facilities and programs. So there originally were 5 strategies here, and there was a 6th strategy that actually was added by staff, and I'll explain why, but I'm not sure this is necessarily the right place, so certainly looking for feedback. But strategy 1, this is looking at anticipating, reviewing, and responding to community needs that may not have been previously identified. Reviewing strategy 2, reviewing policies related to the operation and management of park facilities to determine if changes are needed. 3 is ensure that park amenities and facilities address future community needs and changing demographics. 4 is offering a full range of programs for people of all ages, ability levels, and economic and cultural backgrounds, ensuring all have opportunity to participate. Strategy 5, responsibly maintain our parks, trails, and park facilities while fairly balancing fees and general community support. And then the 6th one came out of actually a discussion with Jace Alexander, who is the senior DEI coordinator and the liaison with the DEI Commission. There is an interest in having some cross-coordination in terms of review and providing input and support between the Sustainability Commission, the DEI Commission, the Park Board. And so they are including in their work plan, engaging with the Park Board to review relevant policies or plans as needed, depending on what the particular content is. And so we felt it was important to include that here because it's in their work plan as well. Again, I'm not sure this is exactly the right place.
I like it, but I thought maybe under goal 4, strategy 5 made more sense.
That is when I read through this
Cool.
again, I think that's a better place because it's more internal operational versus externally focused.
Can you scroll down on there so we can see the?
I think this is great. I'm very glad to hear that our meeting with Jace has borne this fruit of his desire to have more specific goal and strategy level connections between these commissions. So wherever it ends up, I think goal 4 is great, is a great area. I'm very glad that you guys work together behind the scenes as staff to get it in both places.
And what that looks like, we're still thinking that through, whether it's actually having a DEI commissioner come to the park board and be part of a discussion when something like a master plan is being reviewed, or having staff present to the DEI and bringing their feedback back to the park board. We haven't figured that out yet, but we're still, that intention is there.
I agree. I think it does go a little bit to what Caleb's been bringing up in our park boards, and that's where I'd like to even add that sustainability. And I don't know if there's a committee with that as well, or a board.
There's a commission.
Commission.
So I mean, I think it's just about better collaboration across the boards in general, and so that's why I know they brought up DEI, but I think it should be all of them, because I'd like to know how we could do more sustainable design on the trails, sustainable natural habitat restoration, and
So, and it says engage with other city commissions, for example, the DEI commission, but the intent is that it's the DEI or sustainability.
Do you have that language that's in the packet, Matt? This doesn't. This is a different draft.
Is this not the right one?
Well, I also wondered about, do we need to list any commission as an example, or any commission as an example, because perhaps our senior members could tell people who've been on the park board. I don't mean senior members. People who've been on the park board some years could talk. It could be both. Could talk about whether or not we've ever been asked to give input to the planning commission right?
He sat on the Sustainability Commission, for example, for
Yeah.
Right,
years.
but the Sustainability Commission is not the Planning Commission. The
And
Planning,
I'm on
Yeah.
the Planning Commission.
you're on the Planning Commission.
No, I'm on a special project.
Yeah.
Planning Commission right now.
Okay.
So
Right, if they're doing, so that's what I'm saying. There are ways, I guess our tentacles are already in these other commissions. So do we need to list all the ones that could be or that we're planning on? I mean, maybe we do so this city council knows how we're thinking this crosstalk should look. And I'd leave that up to staff. But otherwise, we could get into a situation where the list grows of example commissions that in parentheticals there.
I guess if I may, I would suggest leaving it a little bit vague and having it be dependent on the situation and the context. We have the Sustainability Commission, we have the DEI Commission. The Planning Commission is a little bit different. They focus strictly on zoning and private property, so they are not reviewing park board or park facilities and park lands and any other public lands. So I think there's a bit of a limited opportunity there.
Does the Planning Commission have anything to do with asking developers to set aside, to make sure that runoff water is taken on their own land and providing some green space and whatever?
They do have to adhere to standards, so performance standards related to how they manage runoff from a site, trees, wetlands, anything that's actually on the property, yes.
But not to the extent that it would be sort of quasi-park?
No.
No, okay.
No.
zoning. Oh, big zoning.
So what I'm hearing is that strategy 6 moved to goal 4. Are there any other comments on the rest of goal 3? I'm hearing.
Okay, next one.
I don't remember that we've ever really talked about programs. This would be Kelly's world.
Like what kind of programs?
Which one
Well,
are you?
it says offer a full range of programs for people of all ages, ability levels, and economic and cultural backgrounds.
Well, this gets into, it's a good question, because this gets into the,
Yeah, I mean, I
our
think,
purview is not recreational programs.
yeah, I think we could definitely do, but, you know, in the summer, I think a lot of the programs happen in the parks.
Yeah.
So I think we could do like a summer end program overview or something like that. That's something we could do.
You often summarize
We
in these
summarize
meetings
some of the
all the
programs
programs
within
in the
info
parks.
items, correct.
You do a good job of
But
that.
we haven't done like a season end or year end overview of
No,
programs.
and I don't think you've ever, no. I don't mean that you're keeping stuff from us. I just meant, I didn't feel like.
He is, because he's supposed to. I'm serious, I mean, we do not do recreational programs, so like, we don't worry about the ice rinks or skating programs or the swimming pools or, because that's not, this isn't what Leslie Swope, Parks and Recreation, we're just parks.
Leslie, no.
Is that a fair statement?
So should
Yes,
we
that's
take
fine.
that out?
I think it's relative to parks. The intent is about programming in parks.
Okay.
You could
So if
say
we're
in
going to
parks,
offer
if you
bird
wanna be clear.
walks or,
That would fit for us.
okay.
And if you recall, we typically provide a report early in the year, kind of a year-end report in February or March on the natural resources engagement programming. And so even that includes, the volunteerism, activities that are happening that may be in parks. Christine Peterson will often lead, not often, but occasionally she leads events in parks, bat walks, bird walks, journaling, nature journaling. And so she would report about those types of activities in her year-end report. Okay. Okay, so moving on, goal 4 is enhancing park board engagement, and this goal is really more internally focused within the park board itself. So strategy 1, increasing community and council awareness of park board projects through online project page and community outreach, which really, frankly, is something that the staff facilitates. Encouraging board member involvement in annual park board and city-related special events and habitat restoration events. Continue to explore new ideas and strive to build community for those who work, live, volunteer, and recreate in Minnetonka, and actively explore and enhance partnerships, engagement opportunities with other agencies such as the City of Hopkins and community-based organizations. Are there any other comments or potential changes?
I can see in strategy, I can see in strategy 4 an opportunity to possibly reach out to people that haven't been using the park so much. Possibly. Whether it's accessibility focused or culturally focused. So good. We should keep that.
Okay. Are there other comments on that?
At one point, Leslie, you said that maybe we were going to have a youth commissioner.
Yes.
And I'm wondering whether incorporating our engagement or interaction with the school system in some way. It's not an agency. It's not a commission. It's the schools themselves. I think we could all be really good diplomats and ambassadors in the school systems.
So potentially add under strategy 4, recognize schools, school districts.
I would like to.
They count
And
as
I'd be happy to go out
community-based
and do that if there was a.
Right?
Pardon?
I was thinking of them included in community-based organizations. Done lots of outreach to the high school trying to find this youth ambassador for us.
Yeah.
Like 2 years.
And we're going to get one. Yeah.
Maybe.
We are,
we are.
actually.
Oh, I hadn't heard.
It's coming up. That'll come up.
Okay.
Staff reports, that'll come.
Great.
So am I hearing an interest in recognizing or calling out schools?
I think it's included in community-based, but I don't object to adding schools if you feel strongly about it, Mr. Lehrman.
Thank you. I prefer to see it because I think it's something that we should be striving for in the mission here.
I support it.
Okay.
It could come in handy with the skate park, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We're going to need that.
Okay. Are we ready to move on?
Anything else before we go to work plan? Anybody other questions or comments? Great.
Okay. So moving now specifically to 2026. So the intent here is that we're identifying specific action items that would take place. And we really separate it out by quarter. So quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And I'm not going to read all of these, but this is an opportunity. These are items identified by staff at this point. There's an opportunity if the park board wants to weigh in. Happy to have that discussion. I'll save you from having me read everything.
I don't know whether this goes here or somewhere else, but what's the status of signage in Purgatory about the dog areas, and how much input would you like from us?
It's currently being fabricated at this point.
Input's closed.
So the
was the
signs are
direction.
being made?
Yes.
Okay.
From the council, we went ahead and designed and are fabricating.
Okay. So you don't want any feedback?
Related to Purgatory, though, do we need to revisit the master plan at some point next year, call it second half of next year, and make it up to date to the changes that are being made?
There are going to be opportunities specifically related to the Red Barn site feasibility.
I
as
saw
being
that.
one of the to-dos out of the Purgatory Plan. But interpretive signage about the restoration, we're going to have this creek remeander project in there, so it does seem to make sense to revisit some of the goals, especially that a lot of it was sort of kicked down the road as we discussed dogs.
Yep. That'd be cool.
I think, I support that. I think it's important to have the plans reflect reality as much as we can.
Can I add just some things for what's already like on the list? So I see we have the DEI Commission for Big Willow, but I was also thinking, given what we got as an opportunity with Cullen Nature Preserve, their input on the inclusivity and accessibility trail system. So we're not just creating a segment that is ADA, but that is accessible to everybody to enjoy the same trails, have the same views in that. And so if they're willing, I don't want to overload them, so it's your communication with them, but I'm just adding that as an idea. And then the same with the Glen Lake Park, because again, that feels like maybe a new slate or a new opportunity where we could really utilize the vision of the DEI team for inclusivity and that design. I don't know how that is structured, but I would just think those would be really good input points from what I'm seeing so far on the quarterly plan.
Since you brought up Glen Lake, I was surprised to see that we wouldn't see anything till Q3. What takes place next year?
We can
Is a
move it
plan
up,
review
certainly.
like a final plan? It sounds like a final plan review, but I'm sure it's a draft or design
We're
phase
certainly going to be
before that?
wrapping it up before Q3.
Do you want to move that?
Yeah,
So checkpoint before then?
I think it was just things crowded before that. But it is going to be done before that, at least
That'd be
knowing sort of master planning of that corner.
Yeah, we can move that.
And that will be under park board responsibility, not, because sometimes when it gets to be a really big park project, it becomes city council responsibility. Okay.
My
It'll be
understanding.
ours. Okay. Sounds good.
I think in Q1, we should have some, I don't know what the action item is exactly, but we should have some report back from staff relative to off-leash, additional off-leash areas. So there's sort of maybe it's the roadmap for additional off-leash areas. And then in Q2, I think I would recommend that we add in the review of the purgatory data, because
Sure.
that's going to the city council in the second quarter, and if our job is to advise them, we kind of got moved out of the process, and I think it would be beneficial for us to be back in the process. So we could, give them our feedback on what the stats show.
Sure.
Which purgatory data?
This is the results of how the dog data, we'll call it.
If there's
We're
time for us
collecting,
to
they're
see
collecting,
it
the
before.
process, they're collecting feedback from people in the parks about interactions with dogs and stuff. And so the city council has an action item to get a report back on that in June or
June.
July, June,
Yep.
on the outcome or how that's going. And I'm just suggesting we probably would want to be part of that process.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Especially if we're going to be planning more.
yeah.
Dog
So
parks.
I think it should be a good work plan item.
Okay. Are others okay with that?
Yeah, I had a thought on off-leash dog areas. Because you're incorporating it into multiple master plans, maybe it's a footnote and a star, a footnote that says off-leash dog areas under consideration or something, and then a star next to those master plans or
So
something.
related to the ones specifically.
Yeah, because you're
sure.
trying to incorporate it in potentially Big Willow.
But some,
I don't know about
some-
Lone
the work group, some of the work group opportunities were not in the master plan parks.
True,
Right,
yes.
right.
Okay, you decide then how to do it. You know best.
So,
Well, to
You're-
Dave's point about general future opportunities and the review of the community work group and their recommendations and what the process moving forward as we get past purgatory does seem to tackle that.
Yeah.
so your concern is that you want the citizens to understand that
When
we're
they see
working
the
on
work
it.
plan, that yes, it's being addressed, it's not being ignored.
Yeah.
It is being considered and.
Not just
And
the
the
citi-
city
not just the
council has
citizens,
to
but
approve
us.
it anyway.
too.
So if they're like, no, park board, we took it from you, it's on us, they'll tell us.
Correct.
They'll line item that out, probably. If they,
Yep.
yeah, and then we're like, okay, we get it.
The clarity would be good.
Okay. All right.
So I'm not sure exactly how to approach this because I'm not sure that it's a quarterly item or like, when I was thinking about our work plan, I was thinking a little bit more like, what do we want to do in the next year as opposed to like this is where we do quarter and then this quarter. This is very helpful, but just in my mind so you're aware. I was thinking about when we were hearing from Jace, they had 2 or 3 interns present to us. And that got me thinking about, could we work as a park board to find out how to get an intern and go through that process, and or I guess maybe those are staff, those are interns for the staff.
Yeah.
Alternatively, assist staff in that process or assist staff in a AmeriCorps person, and that AmeriCorps member may, we would, in my view, this is what I would envision. It would be a, either park activity, park board, natural resource specific personnel that would work probably in conjunction with DEI on a focused equity and inclusion activities and process methods development and codification, like plan or document that would then, serve in perpetuity with revisions. A lot of the work that we've been talking about, that I've been talking about. So I'm curious about that process for us as a strategic or as a work plan item for how the park board could assist staff in that. And then in terms of designing it, what efforts would it take for us as park board members to assist in that process to get additional help on this topic? So
Well,
I don't
as
know.
a-
What do you guys think about that? I guess it's
Well,
maybe
as
more
a-
of a staff question. And also, how would we assist you other than just doing more work? I don't know if it would fit well in the context of a meeting to do some of the work, or if it would be more like a subgroup, a task force that's created to either, do we create a task force to create a position or to help create a position, or do we just create a task force as part of our work plan that may accomplish the same thing without an
Well,
intern or an AmeriCorps member? But
Before we get to staffing, what's the driving objective? In other words, what do you want to create? Because the staffing would be, do you have adequate staffing or not? I think what your questions is, I think you want to have a project. You know what I mean? And that would be the thing to start with.
yeah, the project is to create basically a document that codifies the process methods that our city should use to ensure that we have an equity and inclusivity focused or leveraged park and rec or park activity model. What I'll kind of what I'll kind of say is that there are cities that have this. There are also documents out there, but they're not specific to our city. And so the opportunity to do that for our city, that is then part of how our city operates, how our staff operate, how the park board operates, would be a great opportunity for long-term impact on areas of equity and inclusivity as it relates to the activities that the park board and staff related to the park board are undertaking. And I don't know that we have all the time, or that staff have all. That's what I'm trying to be sensitive to.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, but I think you being on this member, Caleb, of this park board, is representing that interest, and you're very, very vocal, and and this is in a positive context. You're very vocal. You make sure that this item is front and center. We've had the DEI staff come and collaborate. That I guess I question if that's where we need our resources to advocate for staff or interns, because I think what I'm hearing, and I wouldn't say a good chunk, but a good portion of the meeting is always on this topic, and I think it's great to have it in the forefront. I'm just not sure I'm supportive with all of the demands on the funding that's available, that I'm ready to advocate for a new position on the park side to collaborate with the DEI, because I feel like these conversations, thank you, I thought something dropped, I thought it was my name tag, and it's so important to hear what I'm saying, right? So my point is, I hear what you're saying, but I think that you are doing a great job representing this aspect to be considered, that I'm not sure I'm buying into that we need to advocate for new staff or a project at this point. That's my perspective. Yeah, I think that what I'm hearing is you want to make sure that this DEI is collaborating and is a component that is considered, and I think you're doing a great job representing it. So I'm not quite sure I'm supportive that we need to take it to that next step until we see that it's not having the outcome that we're looking for.
Katie, did you have a comment?
No, I need to fully digest the Minneapolis document. I've only skimmed it and I have not fully digested it to understand if it might solve a problem here or not. So it could be, one idea is we loop it into our study session too. If a document like that would solve any problems that we've identified here. I can't speak intelligently to it yet, so I'll do that before our next study session. When you read post, I'll read that.
Right, and thankfully we have 2 meetings, right? Like we're brainstorming a bit and jiving about what should we do and what should our plan be. So that's partly what I'm trying to do, is plant these ideas that may fall flat. That's totally fine. I just know for myself, it's hard to be the main voice, the only voice. I may not always be present to share that voice, and we all hope that we can. That we all hope in our service to the city that our work it goes beyond our service time, and that is my goal with this. And that perhaps a more intensive intern, which I don't know if the DEI Commission paid their interns, but there's still a cost. Free is not free, and AmeriCorps is not free, but it's a full-time U.S. member, U.S. service member who is effectively on a stipend that is probably a tenth of an FTE in cost to the city. So if that was a focus, it's certainly, either one is certainly a,
I just want to, I want to come back to intern and staffing is, I don't think something we necessarily need to get into in our role as the board. But I think in the context of if we feel there's some large initiative that needs to be addressed, then that's something we should dialogue here and agree whether or not, as a board, we want to agree that we want to put forward an initiative that then they might need staffing for. I don't know, but I think jumping to staffing when we, right now, haven't really defined or gotten sanction for the initiative. I mean, part of what I think about is, and I agree with Jennifer's point, you're very passionate and articulate about the need, but we also need to know where the city is in terms of their relative levels of priorities around the need. And within the park board, we have these projects that we're going through are very important projects to the city to get done, and they're just to make sure we maintain and move forward with the resources we have. So if we do a study session, that might be a good thing to talk about. But
well, and I see this process today and next meeting as our chance as individuals or as a park board to institute a plan, an idea for our work that maybe is outside of the previous scope or previous
but then you would be
stepwise approach to the park board and let the city council decide.
Well,
that's
first-
a great idea.
we would
We haven't
decide.
thought of that. We haven't thought of that because the city council will approve our strategic or our work plan. So if they see something on there, they may say, "No, we're not doing that," or they may say, "That's a great idea. I'm so glad that was that idea iterated there, and now it's on a work plan."
Do you
for this
have a
coming year."
proposal from this existing work plan that you'd like to see on the agenda?
That's the key. To me, I'm missing the tangible. What is it you would like us to entertain? Not just an open-ended concept, but what is it? What's the tangible action? What's the
So I would like us to. I would like us as a park board to work on the codification of equity and inclusion focused approach to the way we advise and manage our park and natural resource activities. That kind of investment in time and effort in writing and best practice reviews and interaction with neighbor park boards, national park board groups, disability in the parks groups requires more than any one individual park board member could do. So as a board of numerous members, that would be the goal. And if we can't just direct staff to help, and they say to us, well, we could use additional people to help, then we would also help as a park board.
Do you see that agenda item fitting
So that's why
within
I
our
prefaced it.
existing
It's not quarterly.
Okay.
No.
Well,
I don't
let's-
see
let me-
it- I don't see it. I don't
let
see
me
it
try this.
anywhere in here.
Let me
I
try
think it's a
this.
larger
We don't have-
year-long process.
We don't
that's-
have on the agenda today any actionable items requiring a vote. But I think what I hear, and let me run this by you, I think what I hear is if you were to come back at the December meeting with a proposal for the park board to review and have a motion to whether or not the park board would entertain that concept, and we'd have a second and a vote, and then that's how I think this would work, correct?
Yeah, just if I could weigh in here, and other staff can too as well. And there's a lot kind of going on here as far as what is potentially being proposed. I don't know that I entirely envision what it looks like to codify something like this. So if it's a study that's looking at our park system and And, similar to what our post plan is, but it's got a specific focus, so it's it's done in a little different way. That's something we would have to have worked into the budget. Just from a practical standpoint, we can't just hire staff. It has to be in a budget. Those budgets get approved a year in advance, so we've already budgeted for all of next year. Even interns, we don't have funds, slush funds to hire interns. That's something that would have to get budgeted for a year out. If it's something that involves hiring a consultant to do, it is something that we would have to budget for specifically. Typically, we would put it in the CIP, which you would see in May or June of next year. It could be something that's proposed in the CIP to have consultant dollars to do something like what you're looking for, and then that goes through the normal park board and council review as well. So those. I wanted to kind of give that grounding to this discussion. I don't know if that's helpful or if staff has anything other to add.
But if because I too am not sure. I get the flavor of what you're looking for, but I don't have enough grasp of the specificity of what it would be. And so, but I think you have a strong idea what it would be. If you were to come back with, I guess I'll call it a proposal, that we would review, is that the kind of item that the park board could review and discuss and decide if we want to make that a priority by having a motion, a second, and a majority vote, and then it would go into the process of, okay, how would it be, where would it get slotted, how would it be funded, and but then we would kind of have a tangible direction.
Yes.
That would be okay?
Yes.
So if you wanted to put something together, probably get it sent out before the meeting so we can all kind of study it, that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, and it would be something that would be, it would ideally be worked into the work plan, and I recognize it may be something that's.
But we haven't approved it yet.
No, I know, but
if it was approved, yeah.
If it was approved, it would be worked into the work plan, and some of these things are specific items that happen on a specific date, but they also, some of them reflect, like the Red Barn feasibility, that's going to be, multiple months of work, and it's not a one-time thing. So I would say if it's something you do decide you want to add, you should put it in the work plan.
After the next meeting.
After the next meeting, yeah.
So we would want to review the material before and then vote it, have you discuss it and vote it there.
In terms of process, I would want us to have that post-plan review before seeing that proposal, so we can really clarify what the problem is we're trying to solve before jumping to what the solution might be. I don't know if timing-wise that's possible.
That would be challenging, I think.
Would there have to be staff overseeing us?
Well,
can we get together and talk through?
Well, it has to be in the context of the park board.
It has to be.
So if you wanted to work with Caleb on the proposal, you could.
I meant looking at the post plan.
Oh, I think from a continuity spectrum, you want to have staff involved.
Yeah, staff, we're happy to sit and talk to any of you if you want to talk through the post plan, but as a group, you can't come together and talk about an item that's
in
your purview
public review of the post plan.
Violating open meeting law.
Right. So could we have a study session on the post plan, and then Caleb could present and give to us in advance his proposal so we could compare that afterwards, just to be efficient with the time?
You mean doing both of the study sessions?
Yeah. That's just what I'm...
That's public. The study session's public.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I meant that's a good thing for her.
I'm fine with everything being transparent.
So what I hear you saying is a study session before your regular meeting in December, of which we would have to have a quorum.
So we have to make sure
And
we
we
can get there.
cannot vote on anything in the study session.
No.
There would be no voting on
We
the
would not
study
vote on
session.
it.
It would just be basically, right, the post, a review of the post.
And your proposal.
And then,
what she's talking about, and your
could it be,
proposal.
could we have number one, I may be having to edit in real time, but number two, which isn't great, but it would be near real time anyway, because it would be the meeting after or something, but can we do new business of course we can, in a study session?
No.
No.
Right? So then I wouldn't be able to present my.
No, you can present,
No, yeah, you can present.
your,
I just don't think my vision would be, it feels like what I'm hearing you say is you want to have more of a work group. What I'm hearing is there's a need to review the post plan, and then based on that, you, Caleb, maybe bringing in your proposal and seeing after that post plan, how much of is covered in it and what's missing, and then what you'd be proposing. And I think the key thing that I'd be looking for is what's the problem we're trying to solve. Because I'm not, I value and appreciate equity. I'm just not sure I've seen what the problem is. And I think the post plan will help talk about the vision and the analysis and of where we are. So that's where I was thinking of combining them in a study session where we would be all together, we would be talking about it, but there wouldn't be any motion on it.
Right.
It would be discussion and come up with a strategy for potential motion or maybe not.
And Caleb, if you're looking at comparative analysis of other municipalities that you said have similar, codifications, that would be very helpful. I'd like to see that, to see what other communities are doing to solve the problems, because you said, but it's not specific to our city, but, I'd like to see whether we can make it specific, but I need a comparative basis to understand what that looks like. What is the universe of those ordinances or commission suggestions or templates look like? If they're out there, that would be great at the study session to go through them.
So one thing I would suggest is if you have information you want to share with the board before that meeting, send it to me and then I can include it. So we can have a study session before the regular meeting, similar to when we had the training with Mike Funk and the city attorney. So it would be that type of situation.
meaning the same day?
Same day, yep.
The post plan is
Another day,
pretty
Another
long.
day or a longer
The only other option, Chair and Leslie, is the January meeting is pretty short. We could actually postpone the adoption of this until January.
Sure, we could.
At our December meeting, talk through the post plan. I don't know that it's that important to approve this in December.
Oh,
I mean,
because we don't have to go to the council till when?
Well, January, our next meeting is January 7th. I don't know what date the council, there's maybe an opportunity to just not have a special meeting with holidays. This is going to get tight, another evening meeting. I
Yep.
mean, let's
Yeah.
be realistic too about things.
Yeah.
So,
I have not been told when in January it's going to the council, but if this board meets on the 7th, there's a council meeting on the 5th and the 19th. I can't imagine it would be the 5th, so I'm guessing the 19th. Hopefully. But that is an option.
It sounds like we have a couple options.
Yes.
Depending on what happens with
Yes.
the city council agenda in January. Okay.
Yes.
Good suggestion, Kelly.
And so I can certainly look at calendars. We also would need to make sure we have a quorum to support having a study session before a meeting.
If it helps, last year it was on January 13th, whatever day of the week that is. I mean, whatever meeting that would have been.
Okay. So I think we would be fine.
So, to make sure I'm tracking, so we would be doing this at the post plan, this issue, and the December meeting, and the December meeting items would be moving to the January meeting. Is that what I heard?
that's an option pending when we hear when
when we hear
you
the
both
meeting.
have to go to the city
Okay.
council. Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Do people like that idea?
I guess I would prefer trying to do it at the December meeting than have a second meeting in November.
You don't want to have it with turkey?
Are you bringing it?
No. I would agree. I think that would be better. People already have the 3rd as marked on their calendars and stuff.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would agree.
So, but we still have an opportunity. I would like for people to have a chance to absorb Nate's suggestions for the,
Right,
Strategy.
that's happening, everyone will get it, everyone's got it or will get it, and then we can read that over, and they're going to try to incorporate the one elements, and we can comment at the
December
December.
meeting.
Oh, I see
but
what you're
there
saying if
there
we
are
move it.
more, there are some more.
We can certainly, we can certainly review the work plan in December as well. There's
Okay,
nothing
good.
that precludes us from doing
That's
that.
thanks.
And then finalizing it at the January meeting.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Before we go, are there more comments or questions or suggestions around the work plan?
Any, in your notes, your minutes, Matt, did you move up the Glen Lake?
Sure did.
Plan.
Move
Thank
Glen
you.
Lake Park up in the schedule Q2.
And added the dog stuff.
Additional off-leash areas in Q2.
The review the purgatory data.
Purgatory off-leash data in Q2.
Are
Okay.
we moving anything from Q2 to Q3, just because that's feeling a little bit heavy?
Red Barn feasibility study could move into the future.
Okay.
If it's still standing?
We had an action item of the trail maintenance plan, reviewing the trail maintenance and park investment plan. Darren, I don't know if that can move to Q3. Okay.
That could move.
Okay.
Is there any action needed to be taken about relocating the bats that we need to know about?
Just that I've been in communication with Melissa Bowman, who was featured in Conservation Magazine recently, by the way. That's the DNR specialist that I spoke with. She's offering help. So
Okay.
when we know more, she offered to help host a count and get a sense for how many houses we potentially need, what the population looks like.
And there's some, I assume there's some specific timing when that has to happen.
It'd be a spring thing. yeah.
Okay.
Should have done that on Halloween.
Spooky.
How many bats go in those little flat houses that they hook to
Quite a
trees?
lot. They crowd in there.
They do.
Yeah. And they don't live there permanently. It's like
It's kinda
temporary
scary thought.
housing. Yeah.
Not if you're bad.
It's not scary.
So
It's
warm.
not any more scary than a birdhouse, is it?
Well, if there's a lot of bats in that little flat box, there is. Yeah, kind of
So you
scary.
have no idea how many bats are in that barn.
A lot, according to the guano. So I walked in there with her and we looked around and we didn't go too far.
Like the
but
cave.
You need a
she said they're
hazmat
here
suit
for
to be
sure.
there.
What's all this gooey, sticky stuff on us? Oh, man.
Scary.
Okay, are we done with, 7B?
I think we are. We don't need
Okay.
an actual formal action, so,
so now we're on to 8A, information items.
yes. And I believe Kelly.
We just have the one.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So I saw Kayla over at the Burwell Spooktacular. That was about a week and a half ago. I ordered the weather, FYI. It was perfect. The weather really plays a big factor in both Kids Fest and the Burwell Spooktacular. We're showing a couple pictures here, but we had about 1,700 people that night. It was very, very busy. Many were dressed up, as you can see. We had about 1,500 of those. 1,700 went through the house, the Burwell house, so that's nice to see too. We do tours throughout the year and don't get anywhere near those numbers, so it's nice to see that the Burwell house gets some use.
That's great.
Police were there with they had a little, what did they call it? I don't even know what they were calling their police trunk, and then fire had their slide, and then we had some other vendors there. So it was a very good event. The weather was the biggest piece. It was perfect. It was warmer. Like I said, 1,700 was a lot of people. So
And 1,500 went through the house.
1,500 went through the house. So definitely
Boy.
a successful event. We're seeing, and I think Sarah's talked about this in previous meetings, these free special events people are coming out to, and they really enjoy them. The Summerfest, Kids
Yeah.
Fest, Burwell Spooktacular. So, we're very appreciative that the city funds these events. So, it went well.
So this would be a program. Going
Yes.
back to, this would be a program.
That's it.
Okay. Oh, are we on? I'm next.
Yeah, you're next.
Just to talk about this upcoming schedule. So we have a meeting again on December 3rd. We will bring back the strategic plan and work plan for another look. And then anticipate having some updates on Opus and Opus Park. In January, we anticipate. Pardon?
And we're going to go through the post plan?
Yes.
Study session?
Yes,
Yeah.
in November.
December.
I mean,
actually,
December.
will we, point of question, whatever. Will we be doing the post plan as a study session leading into in December, or would it be part of the actual meeting?
I mean, we can do part of the meeting. There's no reason why it can't be a
Might as
business
well,
item.
might as well do that. Okay, good.
That's fine. I mean, frankly, that's a lot easier all
Yeah.
around from scheduling, and we don't have to notice a special
Notify,
session. So,
yeah.
yes, thank you for saying that, Chair Ingraham. Yes, let's have that part of the regular meeting. So in January, again, we likely having more information on the Big Willow Master Plan coming back. In February, you will have to appoint a chair and vice chair. That happens every February. And then the Cullen Nature Preserve Master Plan is another plan that likely will be coming back to you again. In March, we are hoping for an update from Three Rivers Park District on the Bryant Lake Trail. And then we also provide, at that time, some Natural Resources Division updates on our public engagement efforts. So that is the upcoming schedule, subject to change. As far as other meetings, I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Yeah, Activities Sauna in the Park is up and running. We've had, I believe, 2 or 3 weekends already out at Shady Oak Beach. It was quieter the first 2, but it's ramping up. I think this weekend is getting busier. That's Wednesdays, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Light up the Commons, so this is our 3rd year. We'll light up some trees, do some kids' activities out at Ridgeville Commons. That is Saturday, December 6th.
What kind of turnout do you get at that?
A couple hundred.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay. The time
And that's another weather thing. One year it was very cold, and we had a few less than that. So Saturday, December 13th is our winter market here at the community center at 10 a.m. And then the Yeti hunt will be going on kind of over the break, December 20th through January 4th, and that will be kind of the trail from here all the way to Jitta Park.
Okay.
Great. Now we have any park board member reports at all? Anybody would like to report or comment on outside of what we have in the meeting? Jennifer?
I'd just like to report that I went to the book fair and with my mother, and it was extremely
Huge.
well attended. I could barely find a parking spot, and everybody walked out with a large garbage bag of
Yeah, grocery bags full of books.
grocery bags, thank you, not garbage, grocery bags, thank
Yeah.
you. Grocery bags of books. So it was really great to see, and the food component, really encouraged conversations, because I think as I have older parents and aging parents, seeing that need for a recreation for all generations was really impressive to see. And you forget about the different stages of life, not just youth and teens, middle, but all ages. And it was impressive. It sounds like you were there too.
My wife and I went to vote,
Okay.
and we were scared because all these people are going to be voting.
Yeah.
Because the parking lot was packed. But it was the book fair, which I apologize, I didn't know what was going on. The voting was empty, but the book fair was packed.
It was really impressive, and it was a different segment than I'm used to seeing. And it was so well attended and so appreciated that camaraderie and community was definitely felt through that event. So
Did you eat pie too?
absolutely a little apple pie. My mom got the crust, so I was generous enough to let her have the crust. And some sloppy joes, by the way. And we had some great conversations with other people at our table. So it was really something that wasn't on the list that I wanted to give accolades.
And I can just quick comment on that. Thank you for mentioning that we had about 400 people for the book and pie sale that they have every November. They also raised $5,500 for the Senior Scholarship Fund, so that was
Great.
a big deal. A lot of pie, a lot of sloppy joes, and so many books. I mean, the days
books are all
before when we
donated?
collect
All
books, it's
Yeah.
a scene. So.
And I think I used it as an opportunity. My mom lives on Medicine Lake, so they don't really have a community. And so it's such an important thing that we don't always think about how to connect people who are in a stage post work, to connect and to share all the different activities that are available for people if they want to participate. So they know they're not alone. It's my commercial.
Caleb.
Yeah, so I was so glad to donate books to this. I was able to attend a virtual forum that was part of the Conservation Minnesota. It was a couple weeks ago, and we had the chance to kind of, break into small groups virtually into our little rooms to meet and talk with other either park board members from the Metro or like Three Rivers folks, or there was some elected officials on there too. So it was a chance for our sphere around the area to kind of connect, and there's ongoing presentations like coming up, including like the next one is about low salt design as we kind of work through our winter. And smart salting workshops. That's timely, but then throughout the year they have these different other forums. So hopefully I'll be able to engage a bit more throughout the year with these different online forums and create community, connect us to them, and then as I get word, I can pass things along to my fellow park board members too about getting engaged in that way.
Great. Ian?
I was just going to ask.
You pushed green, that's why I called in.
I was just going to ask Kelly if the senior services part is under you or if that's somebody else.
Senior Services is under me. Yep,
Okay,
it's within our
good.
Community Center division, and they do a lot of programming for seniors. I mean,
Oh, they do. I just-
appreciate you coming here, but if you come any day, there's multiple
Yeah.
programs going on every day, so I appreciate
And
that.
I saw Glen Lake too, because not necessarily just that generation, but cards was a big part of the social, and there's some card stuff going on at Glen Lake too. So I mean, there was a lot of programming here and everywhere. It was almost overwhelming. There were so many opportunities, quite honestly. So then that's a good problem to have.
Great. Well, Brad.
Shout out to Public Works. I'm in the middle of hauling a lot of debris to Public Works to the bush drop-off. Guys do a great job over there. If anybody doesn't use that as a resource, it's just fantastic. There's a lot of communities that don't have that. And the team there does really good work.
That's why they ask for your ID.
They never do, by the way.
The leaves, the trees are hanging on to the leaves this year. There are 1,850 fewer vehicles in October this year than last year.
Wow.
November will get very busy now.
Yep, and it was the lowest number, since I've been keeping track of numbers since 2012, it's the lowest number in October we've had.
I see it every day.
Interesting.
I haul so much of it. It's great.
But you can also pick up the chips afterwards too. I've seen neighbors pick up the chips, and I'll call beautify the neighborhood too with them.
If you have a semi, you're more than welcome to take all you want. We have a lot of it.
If there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.